ثم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه وعليه نتوكل ونتوب إليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله فصلوات الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما وسلموا على اليوم بتحية الجنة فردوس. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أما بعد. I would like to pick up actually from last week's khutbah in which the brother was giving us a few isharat, a few insights from Surah Al-Balad. And in particular, he talked about fakku raqaba. He talked about the freeing of the slave. So I'm going to back up a few ayat before this and then give us something to ponder on this verse as well. And this is a good opportunity to realize that, reading of the Book of Allah, the reading of the Kitab, even in the, the short surah, even in these so-called short chapters, which, often we teach to children as if the lessons in them are only for children, but the lessons that can be learned in even these very short surah are not only enormous, but can be transformative. And I say that because we are in a moment where we need to become, mujaddid. We need to become people of transformation and then be majdood. We also need to be transformed ourselves. And of course, the best transformation, the best rejuvenation to make is according to revelation to the Book of Allah. So Allah Ta'ala says, after swearing by the city of Mecca, لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد, he goes into أيحسب أن لم يره أحد. He says that mankind, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبِدٍ. Allah Ta'ala says that He created the human being in hardship, kabad, meaning that you will toil and you will have to do hard work. This is important for us to understand because it also gives us an idea of what to expect in this life. This life will be hardship. This life will not be easy. And if we expend all of our energy in this life, trying to make this life as easy as possible, to the exclusion of other focuses of life, then not only will we miss the point of what life is all about, but we're actually going against the way that Allah Ta'ala has created us. And we understand even with the physical human body, sitting around too much and taking it easy too much actually can have disastrous effects just on the health of the human body. The more that we toil a little bit, the more that we are physically active, meaning, when you think about it, when you go to the gym or you work out or whatever, you're actually tearing your muscles up, right? So when you toil hard, there is a ni'mah, there is a benefit, there is a blessing that comes from this. So one, we have to understand that the nature of this life is hardship, and that we should perhaps embrace this idea of hardship, which isn't easy. Certainly I will be the first to admit it. It isn't easy, but we have to find a way to embrace the hardship of this life. And the detriment of not embracing this is that you tend to focus only on yourself. أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ. Does mankind not think that anybody sees him? So one of the things that we learn through behavioral studies is that human beings are very attuned to being watched. Some of our other senses aren't so great compared to the animals, for instance. But even that one sense that's left in us, we are very conscious when we're being watched. So if we think that maybe there's a suitor, right, we will address or change our attire. If we think that there are important people that may be paying attention to us, we will shift and change our body language. We will lend our attention, so on and so forth. The real question for us is, do we, day in and day out, in our normal lives, do we understand that Allah sees us? Because a lot of what we sometimes wish the Muslims would be like, or we wish the Muslim countries would be like, or what we wish the Muslim community would be like, or what we wish the masjid could be like, stems from we don't have a acknowledgement and understanding that we are being watched. Now, we understand we're being watched when we drive down the street and we see the light change from green to yellow. Now, the more sensible amongst us will hit the brakes because we don't want a ticket. The more reckless amongst us will, of course, jam on the accelerator, and I will not say which group I am in, but we will then gun it. And those that are going to gun it either have a blatant disregard for the law, or they have a heedlessness of the law, and also the danger that they could cause to others. So Allah Ta'ala says, does he not think, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَمْ يَغْرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٍ? Doesn't he think, أَلَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٍ? Doesn't he think that somebody sees him? If we want to transform our behavior, if we want to transform our character, if we want to become better Muslims, this will undoubtedly begin with having an understanding that Allah sees what I do. And He sees what I do whether it's in front of the people or whether it's alone behind closed doors. And therefore, depending on what I'm doing, I can either have a measure of gratitude, perhaps I've been blessed with something, or perhaps I can have a feeling of closeness with Him, maybe if I'm doing something that He will be pleased with. Or more appropriately, perhaps if I'm doing something that's not correct, I will have a feeling of shame. Because the abandonment of shame globally now, forget about it in our culture here, it's a global phenomena. The abandonment of haya, of shame, undoubtedly comes from the abandonment of understanding that Allah is al-Basir and al-Khabir. Allah sees and knows with as-Sami'. Allah is the hearing, the seeing, the knowing. Understanding these attributes of Allah, what we call al-Asma' wa-Sifat, these beautiful names, al-Asma' al-Husna, right? If we understand these, not just can recite them off, but if they have an understanding in the mind and in the heart, they will impact the limbs. And therefore our character and our behavior will reflect this. Alam yarahu alayhi ahad, right? Doesn't he think that somebody sees him? And then from this, alam naj'al lahu aynayn. Did we not give the human being two eyes so that he could be aware that he's being watched? Wa lisanan wa shafatayn. We gave him a tongue, and we also gave him lips, which is another way of saying, is he not aware of what he's saying? We say this sometimes in English. Did you see what you said? It's just kind of weird because you can't see words, right? But this idea from Surah Al-Balad, Allah is saying, we gave you, right, not only two eyes, we gave you a tongue and two lips. Are you not conscious that you're being watched, and what you do and what you say is mahfuz? It's recorded in a book. This should not only leave us feeling a little bit scared, which it should, but it should also feel encouragement as well, because this is I don't like sometimes the way this is only offset of the negative. The positive is Allah sees everything that you do. So every little tiny thing that you do that is good, that is positive, it is recorded and it will be there for you in your favor on the day in which you meet Him. Many of us become despondent, we become depressed, frustrated, because we do things for others and they didn't have the response that we wanted them to have. They didn't have the appreciation of what we gave them. And particularly sometimes for our children. Well, that's the nature of children, because guess what? Us adults, once upon a time, were ungrateful to what our parents gave us. So it's just a cycle that repeats. But part of having this aynayn, wa lisanan wa shafatayn, right? Having eyes and a tongue, and be mindful of what we are doing and what we are saying. And then Allah Ta'ala goes after these things, and He talks about وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. We showed him both ways. Meaning that we showed him the right way and we showed him the wrong way. Most of us, even without having a particular religious tradition, generally have some idea of what is right and wrong. Like, for instance, to steal, whether you're a Buddhist, a Christian, a Jew, generally you know that to steal is wrong and to not to steal is right. Or to maybe help or aid somebody is correct, and to not aid or help somebody when they need it would be wrong. Most of us understand this. So Allah Ta'ala says, we gave him وَهَدَيْنَهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. We guided him to know that these two, right? فَمَقَتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ. اقتحام, right? This word is what it is literally means to assault or to invade or to plunge into something. اقتحام al-aqaba. What is al-aqaba? Right? Al-aqaba is, the meaning is essentially an ascent, a steep climb. What is that steep climb that Allah Ta'ala is telling us to tackle, to invade, to go against it like an opposing army? It's ourselves. It's our greed. It's our absorbed. We become absorbed with ourselves. Self-absorption, greed, ghafla, heedlessness, and perhaps being distracted by too many things of this life. We will never take the high road, as we would say in English. Al-aqaba. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةِ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ. And what is one of the entry points onto this high road? It's freeing somebody that is enslaved. And when you take the high road, right, if you go hiking, the other day, brother and I, we went hiking just up on the hill. And when you look out, there's this amazing view. We love to see pictures from the mountaintop looking out on this beautiful vista, this beautiful expanse. The high road is what gives you this beautiful view, and that you feel wonderful gazing out from the high road. But getting to the high road requires effort, it requires exertion. It means you have to tackle it. That's why, when people mountain climb, they have something called a base camp. It almost has like a military kind of sound to it. Because to climb a mountain, like Everest or the Himalayas, it's like you're going almost to war with nature. Right? So you have to tackle it. Allah is saying, فَمَقَتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ. What is the equivalent of taking the high road in life? It's caring for people other than yourself. Caring for people other than yourself is going to be one of the most difficult things you will ever do. Ask parents. Ask mothers in particular that generally get more of the burden of the child rearing and staying up a lot at night when the child, either when they're after birth, they don't sleep, or when they're sick, or when they're teething and so on. Ask them. Caring for another person is one of the greatest high roads in this life that we can take. And this is precisely the message that we're getting in this beautiful yet short surah. أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة. Right? Or not just freeing a person, but it's feeding somebody. That is sabagha, right? Is saraba. It's like, you're starving. Right? Starving. You have to care enough about another human being to see that their need also gets met. This is one of the entryways to the high road, because Allah Ta'ala begins the ayah with aw. Right? The other one says what? Fakku raqaba. Or in the riwayah that I recite from, fakka raqabatan. Right? Freeing a person that's enslaved. Aw atama'a fi yawmin di masghaba. Oh, feeding a person, meaning that you can do that or this. Right? Yatiman dha maqraba. A person that has no family. When we say the word orphan, we use this word because it's more convenient than saying somebody who doesn't have their parents anymore because maybe their parents died or something. It's like a short code, right? Now people go LOL and saying laughing out loud, right? It's short code for somebody that has had the short end of the stick of life. Yatiman dha maqaraba. Somebody that doesn't have any family. What make them feel like they belong to a family? Because humans are social creatures. We have been created not only fi kabad, not only in hardship, but we have also been created to need and crave and desire and long for family. Talk to anybody that works in the counseling mental health field, of which I've had some experience in. The vast majority of people that come in that need counseling or that are suffering this kind of trauma, when you begin to peel back the layers of their trauma in their life, what's at the center of it? Something they experience with their family. The family experience can be traumatic. And we might wish we had different parents or different siblings or different cousins. But imagine somebody that doesn't have any parents or any siblings or any cousins. Yatiman dha maqraba. Aw miskin. So one might be to give them a sense, and also just a person that's like what it says, the matraba, turab. Like a person who's just like down in the dust. A poor person who's down in the dust. When you see homeless people, they look dirty, right? This is literally a walking tafsir of the ayah. Aw miskinan them, aw miskinan the matraba, right? A poor person that looks just dusty and dirty. When you see the homeless like this, you are seeing an ayah of Allah walking in front of you, explaining itself to you, and calling out to you, take the high road. Don't just keep going. Don't just leave it to somebody else. Do something. Whether it's you stop there and you do something for the person, or you commit yourself to doing something for the poor, doing for something for people that don't have what you have. Decenter yourself and put Allah at the center of your life. When you put Allah at the center of your life, the Quran becomes clear to you. It is not a matter of being mubalagha and being a person of mu'addib bil lugha and all this. It's not about being some grammarian master of the Arabic language to have the Quran become clear to you. When you prioritize Allah in your life, it will make itself clear to you, and then what you need to do will become clear to you, which is a little bit less about you and a little bit more about others. These short surahs are there for our benefit, because sometimes the long ones are a little bit complicated. And if you do this, ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, then the one that does these things, then they are a person of belief, not this other lip service. Remember, lisanan wa shafatain, we gave him a tongue and two lips. Don't give God lip service. He gave you the tongue and the lips. What? Watch what you say, watch what you do. Make it beneficial or stay silent. Man samata najah ka qawl nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet said, the one that is silent sometimes is saved, because it's better just to be silent. But he doesn't ever say, don't act. This is a book of action, inspiring human beings to action. And action not directed at the self, but at somebody else. And of course, the beautiful paradox of this, if we can accomplish that on the day that we meet him, وَلَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, there's no doubt about it. On the day that we meet him, if we exerted ourselves in being concerned about the affairs of other people that just don't have enough, orphans, poor people, feeding people, their basic necessities, and then of course, وَلَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ, right? Of course, not worshiping other than Allah, worshiping no other God, then actually I will get everything, not only that I wanted, but more than I could ever dream of for eternity. This is what the book is trying to do. And this is why there is so much benefit in it, of reflecting upon it. But then eventually the reflection has to become actual transformation. So as we end the first khutbah, think about what you could do today to have a game plan for these people right here. Because you and I might not be able to do much for the Rohingya or the people in Yemen that are literally starving. It's ridiculous. And as much as we would like to change that, there's very little that we can act upon it. But this person on the corner right here, we can actually do something about that. So then you have to ask yourself, is your so-called himma, your seriousness about the Quran, is it only attached to your tribal affiliation of the people of the same zip code that you came from somewhere? Or is it really just whatever Allah is saying? Because the people, al-masakin, al-fuqara, al-yatama, all these people, the orphans, the poor people, ibn al-sabil, all of this has ma fi watan, has no homeland, ma fi balad, has no place, has no ethnic identity. So am I going to waste my life and my resources that Allah Ta'ala has given me and say, well, you know, I couldn't really give, right? I couldn't do anything over there, so I didn't do anything here at all, while these people are here. So in the second khutbah, I'm going to talk a little bit about another lesson from Surah Ad-Duha, something short, where Allah Ta'ala again goes through talking about some of these people, the poor people, the orphans, but then wants us to be people of action, inshallah. أولا نسأل الله بالعافية. First we ask Allah for well-being and for forgiveness. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله وكفى وصلواته والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. So in Surah Ad-Duha, again Allah begins by swearing by things. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, and so on, right? Swears by these wonderful signs that we see before us. And then, you know, أَلَمْ يَجِدَكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى, right? He goes into these, you know, didn't we, right? Trying to get you to wake up. Recognize me that I am one, and recognize the debt of gratitude that you owe to me. This is so much of the message of the Quran to humanity. Wake up out of your slumber of this little rock you've been floating around in space on. Wake up out of the slumber that you're in, and recognize me, and recognize the debt of gratitude that you owe me. So Allah Ta'ala says, you know, when it comes to the yatim, la taqahar, right? Don't, for the people that are asking, and Sheikh, you know, Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqaiti in his beautiful work, Adwa al-Bayan, it's a beautiful work of tafsir, it's tafsir al-Qur'ani bil-Qur'an. It's a beautiful tafsir al-Qur'an that explains Qur'an by itself. I have a couple things to share. He said that, you know, when it comes to the end of it, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, and as for the favor of your Lord, proclaim it. Now this particular ayah, yes, it is in the second person, and Allah Ta'ala is talking to the Prophet ﷺ. But it's also for our benefit. And he tells the Prophet ﷺ, after you have recognized your Lord, after you have Nubuwah, after all the favors I have given you, فَحَدِّثْ, go out and proclaim it. And remember, the Prophet ﷺ is a person, when we say that he had ni'mah, that he had, you know, a gift from God, that he had benefit, that he had all these wonderful things. This is also a person of tragedy. Even just at the very beginning of the Nubuwah, he had already lost both of his parents, and then lost his grandfather. So he knew, you know, bereavement. He knew sadness. And yet despite the sadness, Allah Ta'ala is saying, no, I have given you ni'mah. فَحَدِّثْ, go and proclaim it. So Shaykh Ash-Shanqiti, he says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, in terms of the favor of your Lord, proclaim it. He said, النِّعْمَةُ كُلَّ مَا أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ بِهِ عَلَى الْعَبْدِ. He said that this word ni'mah, favor, gift, right? It's everything that Allah Ta'ala has given the human being. All the experiences, the good, the bad, all of it. And recognizing where it comes from. وَيَكُلَّ مَا يَنْعَمُ بِهِ الْعَبْدِ. Right? And it's this process of realizing you have literally been blessed. In the form, he said, وَمِنْ مَالٍ وَالْعَافِيَةِ وَهِدَايَةِ وَنَصْرَةٌ مِنَ النُّعُوَةِ وَاللَّيْنِ. Right? He said, what? It's in the form of wealth that you have been given, right? But also forgiveness, pardon, ease, guidance, hidayah. وَنَصْرَةٌ مِنَ النُّعُومَةِ. Right? It's an aid in the form of things that have been given to you that you couldn't have given yourself. It is the recognition of this, recognizing that Allah Ta'ala has given these things from you, and then realizing that, you know what? Allah is so bountiful, I can give some of it away to people that don't have enough because He can give me more. I can decenter myself from the center of the universe, put Allah at the center of the universe, my Lord at the center of the universe, and more of it's just going to keep coming to me. I can care about others and not be worried about whether or not me caring for them is going to interfere in getting any more reward. So I'll leave you with this amusing story from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And the benefit is to remember, sometimes we lament and moan about how Islam is viewed and Muslims are viewed in America and the West. But to be honest, a lot of that, yes, there is the media. And the media makes a lot of money off of making us look bad. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? They had their media at this time too. It was called ash-shu'ara. They had their poets, and they were very adept at trying to make the Muslims look bad. And that's why we even have a chapter named after that and dealing with that particular challenge. But it's not a sufficient excuse not to take al-aqaba, not to take the high road, what Allah Ta'ala is commanding us to do. So if we surrender the high road and leave it up to other people to define us, and we don't care about people, then maybe they will feel like, you know what, well, I don't care about you either. So there's a funny story of a Bedouin man who came into the masjid one time. He said, قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, رحيما وشفيقا. He says that the Prophet ﷺ was very merciful and very compassionate على الجاهل, upon the ignorant. And undoubtedly, we live in a time of mass ignorance. حتى يتعلم كما في قصة الأعرابي الذي بال في المسجد. And this is at one point where a Bedouin man, like a country person, comes to the masjid, and he doesn't know what this place is. Because guess what? There was nothing called a masjid before this. He doesn't know what the purpose of this place is. And this is a man that lives out in the middle of the desert, what we might call like an Arabian redneck. He just doesn't get what all this is about. وَبَالَ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ. He urinates inside the masjid. To which, of course, the companions of the Prophet are like, what in the heck is this? And he says what? He says, حِينَ الصَّاحَ بِهَا الصَّحَابَةِ. The Sahaba yell at him. Hey man, what are you doing? لَا تُزْرِمُهُ. Right? Like, don't, this is not the place for this. Don't do this. They screamed at him, the word saha, right? Sahabihi as-sahaba. They literally screamed at him. Instead of realizing like this guy just doesn't know what this place is about and going to him and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. So because of the rough way that they dealt with him, and then the Prophet ﷺ explained to him, it's okay, please don't do that again. That's not what this place is for. This place is for this. Guess what dua that the Bedouin makes? Allahumma irhamni wa irham Muhammadan wa la tarham ma'ana ahadan abadan. Oh Allah, have mercy upon me and upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and don't have mercy upon anybody else. And you wonder now, why is it that, maybe when the public attitude about Islam, we are not included in their dua when they're making dua for America. Or they talk about the Judeo-Christian heritage, not the Judeo-Christian Muslim heritage. Because we've been part of this country, we built it. The Muslim slaves came here and built this country. We have a history here, going back. But what are we doing every day to make it seem like we actually care about this place, and we are like the Prophet ﷺ, rahiman وَشَفِيقًا عَلَى الْجَهَلِ. We are merciful and compassionate with ignorant people, because when they don't know what this place is. They don't know what Islam is. So when they come in here and they see people speaking a different language, eating different food, dressing a different way, they don't know what it is. And they may not like it on first impression. So the question is, and I know this will make some people uncomfortable, because they were not infallible, even though Allah is pleased with them. Do we want to be like the companions who made some mistakes, right? Or do we want to be like the Prophet ﷺ, who was what? وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, whose job was to come and to purify people and to teach them knowledge and wisdom. Part of that is having a level of discernment of like, what's going on here? What's the high road? Am I here just to collect a paycheck and get as rich as possible before I die? Or do I need to give away some of myself so that I can live in contentment forever and ever and ever and ever when all of this passes away? Do I have my mind on the long game? And do I really have my mind on what's pleasing to Allah? Or am I focused on just trying to get a little bit of temporary happiness before I go away? The problem is nothing goes away. When we go away, guess what? We're coming right back. So keep in mind what we're doing. Take the high road, as Allah Ta'ala says. وَمَا أَدْرَكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ. Set somebody free. Set them free from the ignorance of this material age that we live in. Or just give them some material assistance, because maybe they're just having a hard time. Put Allah at the center of your life in this book, in this way of life. Inshallah, will become clear to me and to you. وَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا وَيَقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ.
قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر.